Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Fia. I'll be doing the constructive speech for the affirmative side. It's a great honor to be able to come to be in this national finals. I can't believe I'm here. I'd like to thank every single person in this room for making this competition possible. Thank you, judges, for judging this last round. I'd like to do my best. Thank you, Utsunomiya High School, for debating with us. I'd like to do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson and audience and judges. My name is Kano Matsunaga. I'm the affirmative attack speaker. And thank you, Utsunomiya High School, for debating with us. And thank you, judges, for watching our debate. It is an honor to be able to participate in such a high-level debate tournament. And I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, judges, and Utsunomiya High School. I'm Aika Miyazawa. I'm the defense speaker on the affirmative side. I also want to thank Ms. Bruni and Mr. Imai, our coaches, for supporting us for so long, and also all the Shorin members here who supported us for like a year with this, through this debate and researching with us. Thank you very much. I'd like to have a fun debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Sola. I'm the summary speaker from the affirmative side. First, I'd like to say thank you for everyone in this room, and then I hope that I could be the good friend to of everyone in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have brief introductions from the negative side members, please.
Thank you, Chairperson and judges. My name is Yuta. I'm constructive speaker from negative side to prevent introduction of a basic income. I'll do my best, and I want to make friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson and judges and audience. My name is Mashu, and I am the attack speaker from the negative side. I really want to say thank you to all of the fellow members who have supported us, and all of the teachers, and all of the other teams in Tochigi Prefecture. And our fellow members that didn't sleep last night because they have prepared for this round all night long. So personally, I want to give basic income for them, so I want to be on the affirmative side, but since we're on the negative side, I'll do my best.
Thank you, Chairperson and judges and audiences. My name is Eisuke. I'm defense speaker from negative side. I'm now really nervous because it's my first time to come to grand final of debating tournament. But anyway, I will do my best, and I want to enjoy this match. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Masa, and I'll be the summary speaker for the negative side. So the goal in this debate is to make friends. However, we already happen to be friends, so I believe this is going to be a friendly match, and maybe they're going to let us win. Maybe? I'm just joking. We're going to do our best. Thank you.
Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Fia. I'd like to begin my speech. Plan. We will provide 140,000 yen for adults and 50,000 yen for all minors. Income tax will be flat 30% on people whose annual income is over 3 million yen. Inheritance tax will be flat 50% on financial assets. Consumption tax will be 10%. We'll use the current welfare budget without nursing care and medical costs. 81. Cover education costs. Present situation. 1 in 6 or 2.7 million Japanese children live in poverty. Current policy does not help families cover the cost of education for both primary and higher education. Public spending on education is the lowest of all OECD countries. Individuals pay 70% of the higher education. This makes it difficult to afford school expenses and materials, which leads to desperate measures in household debt. For example, in 2013, a 13-year-old girl prostituted her body to buy 5,000 yen indoor school shoes. Over 57% of high school students borrow money. Less than 20% of low-income students go on to higher education. They take up low-paying, non-regular jobs and pass poverty on to the next generation. Effect. After the plan, children can get 50,000 yen a month. According to MEX, public education from kindergarten to university costs 10.8 million yen. All children will receive 15 million yen in basic income from birth to age 22. All families will be able to afford public high school and university. According to Nippon Foundation, if the government addresses child poverty with a program like basic income, the number of children who go on to university will increase from 34,000 to 62,000 every class. Regular employees will increase from 81,000 to 90,000 for every class. This will make their income increase 3 trillion yen. Importance. According to the Cabinet Office, quote, child poverty is an issue that affects everyone, unquote. There's a huge economic impact if we leave child poverty unaddressed. Children raised in poverty are at an extreme disadvantage in terms of medical care, meals, schooling, and prospects for higher education. According to Japan Foundation, by covering the cost of education and improving opportunities for low-income youth, the government will gain 14 trillion yen in taxes and economic activity for every graduating class. We must improve the opportunities for youth and quality of future labor force and society. Basic income will stop the cycle of poverty. We must take this plan. 82, safety net for all, present situation. The current welfare system is not efficient. Government money never reaches millions in poverty. According to National Audit Bureau in 2015, over 100 billion yen set aside to improve the lives for low-income citizens was not used. Yet Japan is the only OECD country where the poverty of working households increased after benefits and taxes. There are at least 20 million people whose income is low enough to receive public assistance, but only 2.2 million receive public assistance. 19.1 million working poor are in need of assistance. This inefficient system is a problem because it pushes poor to death or suicide. For example, in 2012, 2 sisters in Hokkaido were denied public assistance 3 times and died from starvation. In 2014, a mother in Chiba killed her daughter and tried to kill herself after being denied public assistance. Government money could have solved these people. Effect. After the plan, 100% of citizens will directly receive basic income. According to Professor Yoshinori from Kyoto University, since basic income has no means test, no one will leak from the safety net. Money set aside to help people will not go unused. Because of all people will surely receive 140,000 yen a month directly, the maximum amount of public assistance. Their annual income will increase by 1.7 million yen. Basic income will guarantee all people a minimal standard of living and more options than suicide or starvation. Importance. Japan has the third largest economy in the world. We could take care of each citizen if we redistribute wealth properly, but we are failing to provide a safety net for 20 million people in poverty. Simply because of inefficient programs, citizens suffer. According to the Ministry of Health, 5 people starve to death a day, 1,800 a year. In 2014, over 4,000 people committed suicide for economic reasons. We must not create more victims of the government inefficiency. The most effective way to help these people is to change the current assistance and provide universal basic income. This problem is urgent and serious. We must take this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Please say your name in the start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Masa. So first of all, to your plan, are you going to distribute enough money for hobbies by basic income? Hobbies.
Yes, we will give 140,000 yen to all citizens, so...
I'm asking you, are you going to give enough money for hobbies too, by basic income?
What do you mean by hobbies?
Well, what I want to say is, it is included in the cultural minimum life inside of the Constitution. Are you going to guarantee that or not?
Yes.
Okay, please show us that evidence later. And Tier 81, so are you talking about university?
Yeah, both, not only university, but the education until university too.
Okay, and did you say something about scholarships maybe? I couldn't hear all of them.
Yes, the current scholarships are bad because according to NHK, 10,000 people had personal bankruptcy because they couldn't repay their scholarships.
Okay,
And
thank you.
This number has doubled.
Okay, so, and you said in your impact that 3 trillion yen income tax revenue raise will happen. Am I correct?
Yes.
Well, how is this going to happen?
By the government providing and addressing child poverty, the government can gain 14 trillion. And more children will go to university, and more people will get regular jobs, and the lifetime income will increase. And because of that, from lifetime taxes and economic activity, the government can gain 14 trillion yen.
Okay, thank you. Please show us that process evidence later. And Tier 82. So you said 20 million people's income is low enough.
Yes.
That doesn't mean they're qualified, right?
They are in the same situation.
Yeah, that they're not qualified, right?
They don't get public assistance.
Because, well, I'm asking you, are they qualified or not?
They should be, but they're not.
They're not. Okay, thank you. And what is the reason why they cannot receive welfare in the status quo?
Because the current assistance does not reach these people, even though they have the economy and the economy and the money to support these people, but they are not. And that is the problem. And that is why people are, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson and Justice. My name is Yuta. DA1, financial burden. Presentation. Now, Japan has huge debt, about 1,000 trillion yen. 1,000 trillion yen. To solve this problem, Japan started a plan to reduce debt by 2020 and succeeded in reducing debt this year for the first time in 7 years. Fact. Basic income is never ever feasible in the future because Japan cannot collect enough money, affirmative side expect. First, affirmative side plan is going to use all tax revenue in the present situation for basic income, and they will not use any money for current services like national defense. So if we prioritize the other services, about 20 trillion yen will lack every year. Second, because of aging society, income tax revenue will decrease by 43% in 2060, calculating the data from Ministry of Finance. Third, affirmative side doesn't consider how serious tax evasion is. According to National Tax Agency, 80% taxpayer evaded inheritance tax in 2014 to 2015. Without enough tax revenue, Japan must issue more national bond. According to Nikkei BP Net Quote, Japan's capacity to digest national bond domestically is reaching its limit. Then we have to rely on foreigners. To encourage foreign investors to buy national bond, we have to raise its interest rate, unquote. Once interest rates start increasing, Japan will face huge risk of financial collapse. Professor Noguchi at Waseda University warns, if the interest rate reaches 4%, Japan's finance will collapse. Importance. Financial collapse destroys not only the poor's lives, but also every single student's life. In Greece, financial collapse increased the youth unemployment rate to 50%. In Armenia, suicide rate became twice in 2013. In Zimbabwe, medical system broke down as 68% of doctors left the country in 2009. Basic income is not feasible, just as Switzerland denied basic income because public finance will become extremely unsustainable. We must not take this plan. GA2, the shortage of care workers. Present situation. In spite of its severe working condition, most of the 1.7 million care workers don't stop working, but still, according to Zenloden, about 60% care workers want to quit jobs. The main reason is severe working condition. According to Livedon News, one care worker has to treat an average 50 elderly people a night. The situation is more serious for non-regular care workers, which occupy 47% of all, because according to Zenloden, their salary is on average 82,000 yen. 82,000 yen. On the other hand, the demand for care workers is rapidly increasing because of the aging society. According to Keishikaku Nabi, in 2025, Japan needs another 82,000 care workers to meet the demand. In fact, after taking this plan, care workers can get 140,000 yen without working. Then many care workers, about 60% who want to quit their jobs now, will stop working or reduce their working hours. Because our research in Ishikawa Prefecture shows 61% care workers are working just to make their living. And the amount of basic income is larger than their salary of non-regular care workers. So Japan will face serious shortage of care workers. Importance. The shortage of care workers triggers accidents and deaths among 200 elderly people who need care, especially poor elderly people. According to Diamond Online, in 2009, in one care center in Gunma Prefecture, 10 elderly people died because of a shortage of care workers. This shortage will create massive care refugees who cannot be accepted in care center and cause lonely deaths. They are the weakest people who cannot live without support, so we should not take this plan. DA1 is financial burden. DA2 is the shortage of care workers. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Salah. I'd like to ask you some questions. In your DA1, when will the final impact happen?
when so certainly if we take this plan, because as for care workers, they are sorry, DA1. So okay, so gradually our burden will increase, and sorry, at the same time, it will happen. Sorry, I say exact time, but surely happen.
Thank you.
Sometime.
In your DA2, you said that care workers cannot quit jobs even though they are working in severe conditions. However, you said that they should not quit jobs. So did you mean that we should sacrifice these care workers?
No, but no, I didn't say such thing. Sorry, no, but but if we take this plan, surely sorry, elderly people will surely suffer, and now our care work. I don't think that our care worker has so much important. I think so.
Okay, thank you. And in your DA2, you used an example of Gunma, right?
Yes.
How could you say that Gunma's example represents all the Japan?
That is our case of the student shortage, and so if our care worker shortage will happen, or maybe something will happen, same thing will happen, I can estimate. And this is the same case of shortage of care worker.
Could you say that the same thing will happen in Hokkaido or Okinawa or
why it is
Tokyo and so on?
Why I cannot say such thing? Why? So why we cannot apply? Or even though
Okay,
places are different.
Thank you. But back to your DA1. What is the clear damage to citizens?
So bankruptcy of government means no support from the government and no educational support or no welfare support was very huge.
Thank you, speaker. Please stop. Question time has ended. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Mashi. I would like to point. First is about your 81. 1. No possibility about improving education. According to RIKI, 13,000 yen of child allowance per month can cover only about 10% of education costs. This means that 130,000 yen is needed for education costs. However, moreover, according to the President Online, the living cost for one child is 30,000 yen. So children's basic income about 20,000 yen is 50,000 yen is surely not enough for children to get education. So therefore, it doesn't stand. Second, basic income is not necessary. According to MEX, there is a scholarship system which we don't have to return money until we come to earn enough money. And in the present situation, over 490,000 students can use the system. And next year, the government is going to abolish the criteria of academic ability. Then it is predicted that all of the qualified poor students can get scholarship. So even without basic income, their benefit can be achieved. So their benefit is completely not unique. Third, no possibility about their education. According to Economic Life London, only 38% of poor families said that they want their children to go to university, although 89% of rich said so. So even if we can give money for the poor, we cannot say that will sure connect to giving education. Moving on to the 82. First, no necessity about basic income. The purpose of welfare is different. According to the Ministry of Health, the goal of welfare is to promote financial independence by temporary support. At this point, A, present system is achieving its goal. What the government should do is to support extremely weak people who cannot become independent by themselves. According to the Ministry of Health, 80% of recipients are elderly and disabled people who really need support. B, basic income is against that purpose. By giving welfare even to healthy citizens who can work, basic income will increase financial dependency on the government. This is rather harm in economic crisis. We should think about sustainability because once basic income breaks down, it destroys all citizens' life. Therefore, we should keep the current system which is sustainable. Second, no possibility about safety net for all. Since poor people are lacking the knowledge about how to use money, only the money support cannot save them. According to Brown University, 77% of the poor people buy lottery tickets once in a while. This clearly shows you that distributing money cannot be the fundamental solvency. Third, current system is working. Calculated from the data from Ministry of Health, in June 2016, 91% of applications are approved. And we can play application form from the internet. They say like many people cannot receive welfare, but they couldn't show like actually they are qualified for welfare benefit or actually they are applying for the welfare benefit or not. However, this evidence clearly shows you that if people apply and if people are qualified, they can surely get welfare. So as the system, there is no problem. 4. No impact. Almost all of deaths by starvation are not caused by poverty. According to the Ministry of Affairs, only 2.1% deaths by starvation are caused because of lack of food, which connect to the poor directly. But 98% are caused by malnutrition, and malnutrition are caused by cancer and diet. For example, 80% of cancer patients die because of malnutrition. So the people can be saved by distributing money is extremely small. So therefore, it doesn't stand.
Thank you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Aika. So you have 7 attack points? Okay, in your first attack point, you said that basic income will not be enough for living expenses and education, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. In your second attack point, you said that they have scholarships. So you said 490,000 people are receiving scholarships. So how much money do they get in the present situation?
I thought that was 54,000 yen.
54,000. Okay,
Yeah.
please show that data later.
Yes.
And you said that next year the government is going to introduce a scholarship that doesn't require the academic ability.
Yes, government is going to abolish the criteria of academic ability.
Okay, so how many children could get it?
And it is predicted that all of the qualified poor students can
Predicted?
get scholarship.
Predicted?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And in your third attack, when you said only 38% of students in low-income families want to go into university.
No, only 38% of poor parents said that they want their children to go to university.
Okay, thank
So-
you. In your fourth attack one, you had 2 points. You said that basic income welfare is something that's supposed to keep them independent and help them be independent.
Yes.
Okay. And in your fifth attack one, you said that they don't know how to use their money.
Yes.
How could you say so?
Because actually, as I showed the evidence, most of the poor people are buying lottery tickets so often. So this clearly shows you that the poor people tend to use money for the risk.
How much money are they using it?
Pardon me?
How much money are they using it for the lottery?
We can't say exactly about that, but actually, because
Okay,
of that,
thank
the
you.
people.
Thank you. In your sixth attack one, you said that 91% of the applications were approved.
Yeah.
Where?
Why? Actually,
Where?
Where? In the whole Japan.
Okay, show that
Yeah.
data later.
Like-
In your last attack, when you said only 2.1% are from lack of food, and the rest of malnutrition is for like diseases.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you didn't attack the point about suicide, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Question time has ended. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Kanon. Our first attack point goes to their DA1 probability. They say Japanese population was decreasing, the income tax decreased too. However, that is not true because according to the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, the Japanese birth rate is rising. This shows decreased income tax won't happen. Therefore, DA1 probability is low. And second attack point goes to their DA1 probability. Revenue will increase. They talk about revenue will increase. Inheritance tax, however, according to Sankei Business, thanks to the My Number system, the government will know how much money or wealth people have, and it will be difficult for wealthy people to evade tax. In addition, according to ASEAN review, Japan has high income tax of 75%, max 75%, is making rich send money abroad. 200 trillion in 2015. However, by basic income, we are going to lower income tax to 30%, so basic income can decrease evasion and increase revenue. Therefore, probability is low. And third attack point goes to their DA1 value. It is better to take basic income plan because according to Ministry of Finance, keeping the current social security system will create 145 trillion yen, a burden for Japan by 2025. Because of the aging population, the cost of medical care, nursing care, and social security benefits will increase. If we keep the current system, we have no secure revenue to support this. Basic income plan is superior because we secure source of revenue first and then provide benefits. Therefore, value is low. And fourth attack point goes to their DA1 probability. According they talk about economic collapse, however, it won't happen because according to Japan Times 2016, IMF economists have asked the Abe government to increase wages by 3%. They say that this would make everyone better off and the Japanese economy more healthy. This is because Japan needs at least 2% inflation. Therefore, it won't happen and probability is low. And fifth attack point goes to their DA2 probability. They talked about case workers. However, the basic income will increase case workers and it won't happen because according to Seikatsu Hogo, by basic income, there will be no necessity for care workers to worry about low wages. And people who wanted to do nursing care but couldn't do it will be able to choose nursing care because they can receive basic income and wage. This shows that basic income is better solution to increase the case workers and help elderly. Therefore, probability is low. And sixth attack point goes to their DA2 value. They said that elderly will suffer from lack of care workers, but they said care workers are in severe working conditions. Why we have to prioritize elderly? They should explain clearly because there will be a benefit that exploited workers can quit their job. Therefore, value is low. And last attack point goes to their DA2 probability. According to Somusho 2016, 23 experts say that the basic income will actually fill in jobs that will be needed in the aging society. So we can say their lack will not happen. Therefore, because of these reasons, their both DA is low. DA is weak. Thank you.
Thank you. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Eisuke. First, you have 4 attack on DA1 and 3 attack on DA2, right?
Yes.
Okay. As far as DA1, your first attack point, you said currently the birth rate of Japan is increasing, right? Birth rate of Japan is increasing, right?
Yes.
Okay, please share evidence. And
Okay.
second attack point, you said minor number system can prevent the tax evasion, right?
Yes.
And also you said by your flat tax system, you can prevent, so you can ease the tax exemption of income tax, right?
Yes. And we can increase tax revenue.
So exactly how much money we can save by that system?
We can save
Yes.
200 trillion in 2015.
203, sorry, is that your third attack point?
No, second attack point.
So, okay, thank you. And so please show us evidence.
Okay.
And in your third attack point, you said if we continue with the current situation, the burden upon Japan will increase, right?
Yes.
Okay, show us evidence later.
Okay.
And for the attack point, you said, so currently the Japanese economy is improving, so it is not a problem, right?
Can you say more?
You said currently the Japanese economy is improving, so it is not a problem, right?
Fourth,
Yes.
an economy collapse won't happen.
Okay, pretty sure evidence later. And about
Okay.
DA2, in your first attack point, you said, so after taking it on due, thanks to the basic income, care worker will increase, right?
Yes.
How many care workers will increase?
We want to say that basic income will increase case workers.
Okay, sure,
Truly.
evidence later. And secondly, you said it will be beneficial for care worker because they can quit job, right?
Can you say one more?
You said care worker can quit job, so it will be beneficial for care workers, right? In your second attack on DA2.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Question time has ended. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Aika. In the first attack point, they said that basic income will not be enough for living expenses and education. However, first of all, in 81, we're focusing on using the child's basic income on education. And second of all, they could use the parents' basic income for living expenses. And third of all, if we don't take the basic income plan, then the parents will have to pay for both in the present situation. So isn't it better to give money to these people? In the second attack point, they said their scholarships. However, first of all, according to JASO, only 8% of the scholarship types are non-major types. So they're focusing on a very small. The majority are return types. And second, they didn't show any data. And third of all, it is still unclear if all children, all 2.7 million children in poverty could get education. Could get the scholarship. And the third attack point, they said that only 38% of low-income students want to go to university. However, first of all, that is not true. First of all, that's not true. According to Max Code, over 20,000 people will be able to go to school if they have more money. And not only that, like we said, we could say for sure the number of students who go on to university will increase. According to Nihon Foundation, if we provide basic income, the number of children who go to university will increase 30,000, and the regular employees will increase 90,000, and the lifetime income will increase 3 trillion yen. So we could say that surely this benefit will occur if we take the basic income plan. In the fourth attack point, they said that social or welfare is supposed to be to keep people independent. However, public assistance is not keeping these people independent. It is actually keeping them in the cycle of poverty. According to the Komamura in the Japan Labor Review, all income earned by receiving public assistance is reduced. They have to sell their cars or houses. And as a result, according to the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, 25% of welfare recipients are single, second-generation households. This shows there's a cycle of poverty. This shows that public assistance is not helping people be independent, but actually keeping them in the cycle of poverty. In their fifth attack point, they say that 77%, even though we provide money, it will not be effective. However, first of all, according to CNN, the difference of poor and non-poor is just money. Second of all, we could say that they talked about lottery. However, we could say that if you provide basic income, people will not use money on such goods. According to the Cato Institute, the recent research of the World Bank reviewed 30 studies examining the relationship between cash and temptation goods, such as alcohol and gambling. And they showed there's no impact that even though we gave money to these people, the amount of money they use on temptation goods did not increase. So we could say that this is not a problem. And the last attack point, they said the number of starvation is little and that it is not for money. However, first of all, what we want to say in our 82 is that currently the government has the money. It had 100 billion yen, but it didn't use it for people in poverty. This is showing that the current system is not effective and not saving the people. Basic income will use the government money effectively to help 20 million people who are suffering now. Not only that, they didn't attack the point that 4,000 people are committing suicide for economic reasons and that 20 million people are suffering right now. They were denied public assistance and they cannot help. And thank you.
Thank you. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Eisuke. First about D1. In the first attack point, they said currently birth rate is rising, so it will be beneficial for the Japanese economy. But in the first place, they never ever proven us whether we can this situation will continue or not, and how much money we can gain by this raising birth rate. So in the first place, actually in the present situation, Japan is facing Japan is facing the lack of labor force, and as we have said, in the future, actually the labor force will decrease. So please check this point. And second attack point, they said my nervous system can prevent tax evasion, but this is not true. According to JCast News, in fact, registering my number to bank account is not obliged. So if people are willing to evade tax, they can reject my number, and the government cannot know individual debt. So we cannot prevent the tax evasion. And also they said that evasion of income tax will decrease, but in the first place, they never ever explained us how much will be decreased or how it is beneficial for the Japanese economy. So this attack is weak. And third attack point, they said if we continue the current situation, some burden will be happening upon Japan, so it is problematic. But as we have said in the constructive speech, in order to secure this problem, actually Japan started a plan to reduce debt, and actually we are succeeding in reducing debt or the cost for the welfare. However, if we take this plan, the necessary budget for welfare will be near about 6 times bigger than current situation if we calculate. And then in this situation, if tax revenue will be damaged, we can estimate that really serious financial burden will be happening in Japan. So we should not take this plan. Fourth attack point, they said that. So under the current situation, economy is improving. But in the first place, we are totally considering that currently Japanese economy is good. But what we want to say is that after taking this plan, actually Japan's tax will be damaged, and then we cannot sustain the basic income, and then we have to issue much more bond, and it will be the serious burden on Japan. So we should not take this plan. About tier 2, in the first attack point, they said care worker will increase by the basic income. But according to Care Lab, the number of people who quit care worker due to low salary is only 17% of whole care workers. This means that even if we raise the wage, so they will surely quit job, because there are another reason why they want to quit job. So we should not take this plan. And sixth attack point, they said that it will be beneficial for care workers because they can quit job. But in the first place, this attack point never ever weaken our process itself. So this attack is very weak. And moreover, in the first place, our economy or society is sustained by worker. And also, actually, many of workers are working even though they don't want to work. At this point, in some degree, we have to overlook the difficulty or pain of work. Because if we prioritize all citizens and admit to quit job, our society cannot work. So we don't think that current situation is so cruel. And seventh attack point, they said AI will replace the care workers, but according to Nomura Sogo Laboratory, even if AI is developed, some kind of job category is less likely to be replaced by AI. And actually, our evidence says care worker will not be replaced by AI. So if we focus on the field of nursing care, labor shortage will be a serious problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Salah. I'd like to summarize this debate. First, I think that that both arguments are represented really well. So let me explain why you should vote for us. First, I like to point out they're both DAs are weak. First, in the DA1, they said that the tax revenue will decrease. However, look at our attack point 1. They couldn't defend our attack point 1 effectively. That birth rate is increasing. This means that the government will actually gain more, and in addition, they have never regarded the government will gain 14 trillion yen by covering the cost of education for children. Therefore, the DA1 stands really weak and really weak. Next, in the please look at the DA2. They talked about lack of care workers. However, look at our attack point 6. They dropped this point. However, please consider that their DA2, when their DA2 happens, benefit will simultaneously happen. Therefore, their DA2 damage their own, therefore their DA2 has completely lower value. Therefore, judge, do not consider about DA2. Next, let me compare entire value. First, please look at our AD1. They could not deny that the government will gain 14 trillion yen, like I said, and comparing to the DA1, the government will actually gain more than now. Therefore, our AD1 completely outweigh the DA1. Next, please look at our AD2. In our AD2, we said that people who are not receiving assistance now will gain benefit. So let me point out mutually exclusive in this debate. After the plan, all citizens will receive basic income, include people who are not receiving any assistance. This point is completely mutually exclusive, and this shows that our 82 probability is extremely high, and then more people will be supported by the government. So their situation is really serious because, like we said, that they're already dying by starvation and suicide, and they are, like I said, they're in absolute poverty. That's why our 82 is the strongest argument in this debate. Judge, please take our 82 as the strongest argument in this debate. Then let me extend our argument. Like I said, in our 82, we said that 20 million people are ignored by the government. So this means that the current social security system is completely broken. However, by taking basic income plan, the government will help them. This is the government role. We must take this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Please say your name and start.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Masa. In my debate, in this summary speech, I'd like to first of all refer to the AD1 educational stuff and explain why it's not standing. And next, I'd like to explain about AD2 and DA2, talking about the safety net and the shortage of the care workers, and why we should not take this plan, looking at it from the view of the weakest people in this society. And last of all, I'd like to explain to you the main reason why we are asserting we should not do basic income, because it is unsustainable. So first about AD1 and education. So their goal is to make a 14 trillion yen benefit by making those people go to university, high school, and all of those higher educations. The defense speaker admitted that doing basic income will be at least better. This isn't enough because it is admitting that they cannot go to university, they cannot go to high school. It is not enough, and the benefit will not happen. The defense speaker actually admitted this, which means the probability of this happening is extremely low, and the impact itself is also really low, because the status quo scholarships can cover all this. Actually, 54,000 yen is actually given out in next year, so it can also be solved. And therefore, their 81 has no uniqueness, and actually it cannot be achieved. Now let's look at 82 and DA2. So 82, talking about the safety net. Yes, they told us that it's going to create the 25% second generation, so it's not actually working. But it never says that basic income will not make those people independent, because it will actually diminish this independency, which is going to lead us to the ADA1 importance. But I'd like to talk about that later. So, and the 91, they actually said that 91% of the applications are approved. They admitted this, and they defended by saying that 100 billion was not used. But 100 billion yen not used doesn't mean that those people were not saved. It just means that they didn't actually need that money. So it doesn't mean that those people are not receiving welfare, and it actually means that 91% of the people did receive welfare. And whereas on our DA2, we have explained to you that these people will be systematically impossible to save because the shortage of the care workers will happen, AIs cannot replace these people, and there will be refugees because they cannot get those care workers. And they are going to die a lonely death, and accidents will happen, and this impact has not been attacked by them. Therefore, talking about the systematic sustainability, in the status quo, there is a system that can save them. However, after plan, nothing will exist to help those elderly people. Therefore, looking at the content of which can better save the weakest people in society, we should not take this plan. Last of all, the main reason why we're not going to support this plan. So, the reason is unsustainability is going to happen and bankruptcy will happen because the reason is, first, 80% of the inheritance tax evasion will occur, and which they did not actually attack. And first, second, they are going to use all current money for the basic income, which means 20 trillion yen is going to lack every single year. And third of all, the aging society is going to decrease 43% of the inherent income tax. This can all be unavoidable, and this is going to happen uniquely to them because first of all, they are going to distribute enough money for hobbies to every single citizen, whereas in our side, we are going to distribute it to those who are only in need of that. And okay, and at this point, even if both of their ADs stood, we still negate because bankruptcy is going to affect every single citizen inside of Japan. No welfare affects the 20 million people of the poor inside of their 81, and no services means no help to every single citizen inside of Japan. And if the sustainability, if it's not, okay,
Thank you
therefore
very
we
much.
negate basic income. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Your masking of ears was too late. Try once more. Hello, friends! Okay. Well, I am genuinely happy to see your happy faces. Did you join in the movement? Universal Basic Smile? Yeah? Now show it to a guest. Basic Smile. Okay. Obviously, some of you won, some of you lost. And in terms of debate matches. But as I mentioned before, when I announced the finalists, I have said that all of you are winners as long as you made friends and as long as you did your best. And I'm quite sure that you all did so. So let's give yourselves once again a big hand. And obviously, let's give all the teachers and all the guests and all the organizers a big hand too, because they are not doing this for some income. There is no basic income for them. So let's give them some basic applause. Thank you very much, Ibaraki. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to make my comment very short today. I will talk only about the general comments. I only have two things. Number one, I have watched a lot of rounds, not in this nationals, but in a lot of prefectures this year. I went to Wakayama. I came here in Mito. I actually went to Shimane and Tochigi and Chiba and Saitama and somewhere else. So I actually visited a lot of Tokugawa places like Wakayama and Mito. I actually went to Gifu, so I could have completed the Tokugawa cycle maybe. So what I want to say is that in spring, a lot of teachers complained to me that it's very difficult to debate on basic income. Our high school student can't. I didn't subscribe to the view. And I was right. You can debate anything the adults can do. So what I want to say is, there is a glass ceiling in this Japanese society made up by the grown-ups, that the adults set up the ceilings so that the high school kids cannot improve themselves because of the glass ceiling set up by the adults. We should break the glass ceilings. The high school students' potential is not what average Japanese can imagine. They have a higher potential. That's what the high school kids taught me this year. The second thing I wanted to say is, thank you for all your friendship. 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, I sent out a message that debate is not just about winning or losing. So let's have fun through self-introduction. Let's have fun with the other teams. And in just 2 or 3 weeks, a lot of schools kind of know that they can have fun. Obviously, high school students in Japan tends to be like following the Japanese rules that you can't do anything extraordinary. They have to follow the average ordinary lifestyle. So what I wrote in the message is that you can have fun in self-introduction. And what did we have to in this tournament? I was having fun listening to your self-introduction on your smiley faces all during the 2 days. So obviously, I have a message for you, high school students. There are some social norms in the average Japanese society to follow the majority. But you shouldn't do that. You should chase the extraordinary because you are extraordinary. That's all for me. So let me introduce the person who will give us the result of this final round. His name is Mr. Thomas Clark, and he and his wife, Hiroko-san, actually was judging from the first round of this HEnDA tournament till the 9th tournament consecutively. They were living in Japan then, but they live now in England, so they missed the last tournament. But Clark-san actually came back to Japan for judging. He doesn't have any other work. He came here to judge you. Because I know that there are a lot of extraordinary people, but if I were to name one person who is actually a globalized person in concrete, I will name Mr. Thomas Clark. So all of you, please be mesmerized by the comments from Mr. Clark.
Minasan, thank you very much. I am deeply humbled and honored by that incredible welcome from Chief Judge Yano. I am very undeserving of it, but I am grateful for the opportunity to stand here in front of you and give a few comments. If you will permit me, I would just like to make a few general comments about what I see as the great importance of this activity and this tournament in your lives and for you before getting into my specific comments on the debate. Chief Judge Yano mentioned my wife's and my long-standing association with this tournament, and it is truly something that has a very special place in our heart. In the first tournament when we did come, it was with our 4 children, the 2 of whom were really just tiny kids, and I remember the great kindness of some of the students at the school where it was held, basically babysitting them while my wife and I were running around to rounds. And that warmth, that friendliness has been a consistent aspect of this tournament for the decade that we've been involved in it. And I think, as Chief Judge Yano said, that is one of the most important values that I think you should always take away, the HEnDA philosophy of make friends, because that is a central part of it. Another small personal note is that the way that I met my wife and many of my debate friends in Japan going back to 30 years ago was a man, sadly, who passed away a few years ago, Father Scott Howell. Some of the teachers here may remember him. He was, besides a Catholic priest of the Jesuit order and a professor of chemistry at Sophia, someone who spent much of his more than 35 years in Japan devoted to debate and kind of got me involved. And he told me something many, many years ago about his experience of Japanese English language debaters, which was that they had great spirit and that they were always trying to search for the truth and to search for values, and that this was an activity that was incredibly meaningful, and that I should really look upon them as being a great source of optimism for the future of Japan. And I've always thought that Father Howell was exactly right about that, because every time I've interacted with debaters at this tournament or elsewhere, I've seen that spirit. You know, debate, what's the value of debate? You know, why are you all here? You know, maybe someone told you that, oh, if I master English and if I go beyond that and do some policy studies and analysis that we learn in debate, it will help me get a good job. Well, the good news is that's true. I'm not going to tell you it's not. But is that the only reason to do it? No, I think there's much more, much, much more. Because in debate, you're asking yourself about basic questions. How do I determine what's important for me? How do I determine how to deal with the rest of the world? I mean, look at the world we live in. I'm, as Chief Judge Yano mentioned, based in the UK now after 15 years of Japan, and I can see, even in the last year, look what's happened. Brexit, you know, increasing tensions with Russia, the elections in the US being a surprise to many people. Look over here in Asia. I mean, there are so many issues here, the rising provocations of China in the South China Sea, even in the Senkaku Islands. There's no way you can hide from the world. And as young Japanese, the ability to think strategically about these issues, to make arguments with others, especially in a foreign language like English, that's a skill you will need to have. And not only in geopolitics, we have issues with the environment. We have issues with technology and the interplay between technology and human life. How will you even address questions like, is it okay to clone human beings? What do we think about euthanasia? What do we think about the great, you know, questions of our day around, you know, what is human life? If it's only about your feelings and emotions, well, you may have some good feelings about those questions, but it's hard to share your feelings in a very rational way. What debate does is it helps you to frame those feelings using logic and appealing to some truth or value that's universal and can be shared with other people. So you, as young Japanese who will have to inherit all of these difficult issues, I feel almost relieved I'm getting old and won't have to deal with them so much for much longer, but you young people are the ones who are really the hope of the future. And I think this topic of debate, whether it's this year's topic or the others you've faced or will face, they will help you to think with logic, but also with passion, to search for that truth. So I hope that you see debate not only as a fun activity, which it is, not only as something which will contribute to your careers, which it will, but also as something that will help you to identify why you're here, why you should be living the kind of life you're living, and to do that in a way that combines feeling, spirit, and truth and passion with friendliness, and all of those values that I think HEnDA teaches us. So with that general comment, I'd like to move into something maybe a little more mundane, like who won the debate? And this debate was a very, very close debate. It was an excellent debate that was well argued by both sides, no questions about it. And we had a very clear advantage set out by the affirmative team around basically improving the access to education and covering it. Now, the great thing about this is that it's not a very simple thing in dollars or yen and cents, but it's the value of education. And it looked at what it would take to get people to get an education. It would be money, but it would also be the motivation. And where did this come up? In a great exchange that started in the Q&A and then was carried over into the negative. What would happen, you know, if we give this money to people? Will they spend it on education? And, the negative team said, well, there's some evidence to suggest that actually, a number of people, wouldn't necessarily spend it on education. Only 38% of poor families even want their children to go to university. So they immediately are saying, well, it's not just about money, it's about attitude and sort of cultural perceptions maybe of the value of education. But the affirmative came back and had data, the Mexican card, and talking about the 20 million that will be able to go to school. And it seemed that there was actually a strong suggestion that even if there wasn't 100% solvency, that there would be a lot of people who would take advantage of that. And this is a great thing about debate, because it's not an either or. It's not like you win the point or you lose it. You win the argument or you lose it. Almost every argument in debate is about how much of it you win, how persuasive. Maybe even if you have 30 or 40% solvency on an advantage that's large enough, that's still something that can't be ignored. And so I think there was another aspect of this sort of prism, how we look at education. Will they go if they have the money or not? And also, what about the uniqueness? We have, for example, scholarships today. And I think the negative made a good argument that there were, in fact, some important scholarships which would be available and would take away the uniqueness of some of that advantage. But at the same time, the affirmative came back and argued that they weren't, in fact, comprehensive and didn't cover all stages of the education. So I think most of the judges believe that there was some significance to this advantage, but that certainly negative had done a very creditable job of reducing it. It was not 100% effective. Now, when we went to the second advantage, this was much more, I would say, broad, whereas education was one narrow focus of social welfare. The second advantage, helping the poor, was much, much broader. And this was talking about what is the best way to actually deliver social services and welfare. Is it the status quo that we have now, which is public assistance and the various plans that go along with that, or is it this new concept of the BI, which, as you probably know, is actually being experimented with, actually over in my neck of the woods in Finland, in the Dutch cities of Utrecht and a few others, and even some parties in the UK are proposing it. Now, it was very, I think, smart of the affirmative team to introduce evidence from a broader way of sources that said that this will really be about ensuring the delivery of those services, because there's a huge gap now in terms of people who would not have access to that, either because they don't have applications filled out for them, even though they qualify for it. And I think there was evidence cited, particularly from Kyoto University's Yoshime Sensei, that no one will be missed. That's one of the advantages in BI. In fact, that's the advantage that a lot of people internationally talk about. It'll take away the hit and miss aspect of it. But negative came right back and argued very well along several lines of attack that, in fact, there's actually other ways to solve it, that, in fact, 91.9% of applications are actually approved. And they gave other indications that there were ways to solve this, and over time, people would get access to the money. But negative again came back and indicated that, in fact, there were still gaps in the system. And to go back to that point, it's never a 100 or nothing question. It's how much solvency is there? And even if there's partial solvency, that can still have some impact. Now, negative made another very important argument here that said, you know what? If you give money to people, how is that going to make them better off? And this is kind of an argument that we would call paternalism, which is if you just give people money, there's a chance that they can spend it on some vices, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever. But affirmative came back with some very good evidence backed up by policy institutes. In fact, there was a card read, I think, by the Cato Institute, citing that, based on a study, that there was actually very little impact where we saw the provision of these kinds of benefits leading to so-called temptation goods, and that, in fact, most of this money did go, especially at the low levels of income of the people receiving it, in the case of the poor, to actual needed life goods. So again, I think at the end of the day, we considered that there was some fairly substantial benefit to Advantage 2. Now, there's another thing about debate which is very interesting for me, which is it's never possible to sort of hermetically seal, the disadvantages that the negative runs from the advantages that the affirmative runs, and the best debaters are the ones who try to connect the linkages between those. And I think both of the teams here did a very good job of that. So to take an example, if we go to DA2, it was clear that the negative teams, I think, main emphasis was on the disadvantage of the plan being, disadvantage number one on financial burden. The biggest disadvantage here was that this was going to stress the Japanese state, and that over time, if they couldn't raise the money from tax revenues, they would be forced to go to the public debt markets. And of course, nowadays, since those are kind of tapped out in Japan, they might have to rely on foreigners who would, in fact, demand a higher interest rate. And they had a very good card from Waseda Noji Sensei saying that, if the interest rates prevailing on Japanese debt reached 4%, that would actually create a crisis for Japanese funding. Now, that's potentially a very powerful argument. But the affirmative came back and indicated with evidence that also cross-applied what they had argued in their second DA, that this actually isn't going to incur a huge amount of additional expense, because actually the plan for BI is about reallocating monies that are already being spent. And in fact, as affirmative said, the government already has billions that are not being spent because of people who are not getting benefits that they're entitled to. And when you think about the topic, this topic really isn't about spending a lot more money. It's about redistributing money through the BI as a system rather than through the current system. And in fact, as you know, the definition of the topic is that basically the BI will be done in substitution for or in lieu of the expenditures on public assistance and its associated categories and the ending of various tax exemptions. So what the affirmative was pointing out here was that this is about delivering services with greater efficiency and not necessarily about spending more money. So you could see even there was a whole line of argumentation linking what they were arguing in advantage 2 to what the negative was arguing in disadvantage 1. Now, on disadvantage 2, shortage of care workers, this was a very well-argued disadvantage, I think, by both the negative and the affirmative. And certainly, since it led to some potential deaths or accidents and human life is involved, it's a potentially very significant disadvantage. But again, affirmative came back and pointed out that there was some real question around the solidity of the links between the facts that would cause this and the actual bringing about of those harms. And specifically, there was a lot of evidence presented around the fact that you would have monies provided that would allow people to actually continue being care workers. So this was, in a sense, turning the causality and saying that, no, BI will actually allow people who might be considering a career in care for sick or elderly people to do that. And so, again, we're not allowed in debate to do link turns, but we certainly are allowed to use them to mitigate the causation. And so I think in our view that took out some degree of the DA2's solvency by mitigating that link. But there's one other interesting thing about DA2 which illustrates another one of the HEnDA rules, and that is that while link turns are generally not allowed, value turns are allowed. And the affirmative ran a very interesting value turn on the second disadvantage. The value presumably is that, we should care for the poor and the old, and that's true. But they mentioned, but what do you mean? Is it okay to just conscript as if they're slaves, the people who are working as care workers? I mean, do we have a right to just say, you have to be doing those jobs, even if you're only doing it under duress? And they noted the evidence that in fact negative itself had presented that these are sometimes done under very, very difficult conditions. And so they kind of turned the value and created a situation where under the affirmative plan, you actually would be perhaps enabling these care workers to do their job not out of some sense of desperation, but more because they were enabled by some additional supporting income, to do the job and do it more of their own free will. So again, we see the interplay between the values and the links coming out in a very, I think, dynamic way, argued very well by both sides. At the end of the day, although it was a very difficult decision because these were two highly skilled teams who really did a terrific job that they should both be proud of, we did have to vote. And as I say, it was a very close vote, but the majority of the judges on the panel believed, after very serious consideration, that the affirmative values with regard to covering education and with regard to helping the poor outweighed the disadvantages that the negative had presented, and therefore Shorin on the affirmative side is the winner of the debate. And I hope that all of you take away much to your heart from this wonderful weekend here in Ibaraki. Thank you very much.